Good evening, everyone, to this series presented by Sankara Academy of Vision on the occasion of International Albinism Awareness Day. My name is Gokul. I'm a consultant psychologist working for Sankara Eye Hospitals. The topic that I would like to discuss today is what sort of a psychological impact that albinism has when an individual is diagnosed with it, right? Mainly, there are three aspects that I would like to focus on. One is what is this impact? What does this impact look like? Second is what are these crucial factors or important factors that sort of contribute towards this impact? And lastly, what is it that you, me as individuals, society, and professionals can be doing to reduce this impact? Okay. Now, as you're aware, albinism is a congenital condition where these individuals are born with uh, with no or very minimal melanin pigment present in their body, which has an impact on their eyes, skin, and hair. There are a lot of functional or physical aspects that sort of are impacted because of this condition in these individuals. But however, due to this whole aspect of not so good experience in terms of interaction with the society or the world around, they also have a huge psychological burden on them, which again, when I say psychological burden, um, these negative experiences cause a lot of psychological turmoil within them due to various reasons, which we will discuss further. But that is also a very crucial and important part that we should be aware of, which we should be aware of. And that's something that we will discuss today. Now, when we speak about psychological impact, the whole aspect of psychological impact is too large, and there are several different aspects that come under it. But there are few things that I would like to discuss today. First and foremost is the self-concept of it. So every individual has a self-concept, which is nothing but the image that we hold, all the positive negatives that we hold about ourselves, that we have within ourselves. And this develops over a period of time with given our interaction with people around us, the experiences that we've had while growing up, and all of these aspects that contribute to development of this self-concept. And the self-concept or the evaluation that we place on the self-concept is what leads to our self-esteem. Okay, whether it is positive or negative or high or low is what we contribute. Now, if not just albinism, but any person who is diagnosed with any sort of condition is different from the regular individuals, definitely face some sort of exclusion, and the whole experience of them interacting with the people around themselves is not always positive or not frequently positive, which definitely has a huge dent on their self-concept and self-esteem overall as well. So that is one very big crucial. And obviously, when your self-concept of who you think you are, or what ideas you have about yourself is not good enough, then you can only imagine what sort of an impact that will have at a later point in life, while while growing up or as an individuals when you become adults. So that's one. The next aspect is general stress. Now, when when a person has any condition and there are certain limitations that are placed around that person, it could be because of the condition itself, or it is the world around them or people around them are facing the placing these restrictions. In itself can be very frustrating and stressful, right? And I further, when I discuss factors, I probably will tease out what do I mean by these negative interactions, which sort of has leads to this whole aspect of stress and anxiety, fear as well, because again the idea of who these people are and what they're part of the society or their image in the society is also not always positive. And in certain cultures it is way too extreme, where the people are believed they are from evil, or they are unlucky, all these superstitions that people hold on to, which again is, just imagine, that's quite fearful. So imagine to having to live with that fear of how people are viewing about yourself is not again a very comfortable thing. So the fear, the anxiety, the stress that they have to go through because of this condition is significantly again higher. As I said, one is to do with the part of interacting with the society, one is their limitations in themselves which can have this impact, right? And there are a lot of studies which sort of have shown that there's a great degree of prevalence in terms of common mental health disorders among people with albinism as compared to so-called normal people around, right? So again, why? As I said, the more we discuss the factors, it will be more clear for you of why they have to face this sort of an impact, because of the factors that are associated with it, right? So overall, to emphasize the point that people with albinism, yes, the physical limitations exist, but along with that, there are also significant psychological impact that these people undergo, or psychological problems that the people undergo, which should always, kept in mind, or we should be aware of them when interacting with individuals with albinism. Now, as we were discussing, there are a lot of factors that are associated when it comes to the overall psychological well-being, or the factors that impact this well-being in individuals with albinism. The first aspect is, or the most crucial or important aspect is the stigma. Now, in general, I read somewhere that stigma has so much power, or ability to sort of make a normal, fully functional, with a good reputation, to almost a tainted, worthless person, because if the stigma exists within the society. So in this case, there are a lot of stigma held against these individuals, which sort of leads to negative attitudes towards them, very hostile attitudes toward them. Just to name few, I was reading in African countries, people with albinism are thought to be, possess some special powers, or called unlucky, and there's this level of superstition where they have to be killed, they are killed because of this aspect, and also the fact like in countries like other countries where it's somewhere thought to be contagious, the fact that people believe this condition is contagious. So you can imagine, when there are these negative sort of attitudes because of these stigma that are held by people, you can only imagine what it must be for people having to go through. Just to give an instant, that if you're living in fear to be somebody might kill you, or if you're living in instant that somebody might kill you, you can only imagine how fearful that is, how much of an anxiety that might cause. Or you go out and people treat you differently just because they believe, or they don't want to sit next to you because they believe it's contagious. Again, while I'm speaking, I can only imagine what that must be for those individuals, right? So, it now you can understand when I spoke about the impact that individuals with albinism can have. So it comes one of the crucial or important aspect that contributes to that is the stigma part of it. Next is the exclusion. Yes, while I spoke about stigma, I sort of mentioned, when people are excluded, but I'm talking exclusion at a little larger level, right, or a different level as well. Next, say example in a classroom, right? So you have about 50 children, and there is one child who has albinism. Now, are you catering to their needs in terms of their educational needs or learning needs, or even play needs, right? Are you sort of monitoring, or are you sort of tailor making things? So for example, you have a games period, or a sports class, and it is scheduled at mid-afternoon. Now, what are you trying to communicate there, or what are you trying to do there? right? When you know there is a child with albinism and the exposure to sun might really harm them, and you scheduling a class in the afternoon is just you trying to exclude them from them participating. So these are the exclusions that you are creating, right? Now that's one level of interactional exclusion that people are creating. Then it could also be at a workplace where there are certain job roles, or there are certain industries which have an expected standard of appearance, and the people, even if they possess skill and knowledge, they are not taken on, right? Not just certain industries because the image is required, even a regular industry where the image might not be important, but somewhere that aspect of not giving the opportunity or not letting them have that opportunity just because of how they look or the condition that they possess. That's also exclusion. Now, looking at this as societal exclusion, there's also exclusion that people themselves have to go through because of the negative attitudes or the stigma that I was speaking to you, that people hold on to, that people don't want to socialize because they're afraid. So there was this very interesting survey done, which in 2019 by a famous NGO, which sort of spoke about what are these reasons why people with albinism don't want to interact. So one of the aspects is that this fear of exclusion or being sort of taunted upon, or all of these negative aspects in terms of interaction with other people, which people want to stay away or keep themselves away, was one of the aspects. So imagine people are excluding them, and also they are excluding themselves because of how they're being treated. Where are they? Are they going to be okay psychologically? Definitely not. We all are social beings. We crave for interactions. We crave for companies. We crave for peers. We crave for friends. But imagine somebody has to go through these exclusions. Not a nice thing. And I can only again imagine what that must be having an impact on their psychological well-being. Now, that along with that comes the bullying part of it, where growing up, just because again, if you look at bullying, anything that looks different, or anybody who looks different, or any concept that is not familiar to them, when people cannot grasp that, and people who are associated with that, are subject to this sort of a bullying. The taunts that they have to, name calling that they have to go through. Again, in India, often I was reading the experiences of people with albinism, and they're often referred as Angres. Again, that's such a demeaning taunt or a demeaning name given to them because of the condition that they have. So you can again, as I'm again and again emphasizing, these are not all nicer experiences, right? And when the experiences are not so good, I'm constantly, again, as I said, I don't want to be pessimistic and paint the picture that all the world is bad. But if the most of the experiences are not good, now what sort of worldview am I developing when I am different compared to others, right? Not a positive one. Now imagine having to live in that worldview constantly, not a comfortable feeling. Again, going back to stress, right? Now, as I spoke about exclusion, there's also a sense of neglect, that when you don't try to sort of include people, you're also telling them that I don't really care about your needs. And having to experience neglect just because they have a condition, and there are certain needs that need to be met. And if we give out that message of, what, you didn't, really doesn't matter, or it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter, then again, the sense of neglect that the people have to go through is not a nice feeling. Again, I probably am reducing it to feeling. It is much more than that, that the whole experience of having to undergo or, experience this. Now, another essence is, when people, the so-called normal people come across people with albinism, the facial expressions, very shocking, very, very shocking that in the last 1 week, we've been having screening in hospital with people with albinism. And in OPD, few of these individuals were sitting, and I noticed the reactions of people sitting next to them, or the initial reactions of people when they encountered these people, when encountered people with albinism, was not all that great. Again, am I purposefully putting up this face of disgust? No, perhaps, but this is this deep-rooted understanding or deep-rooted attitudes that we hold, or the biases that we hold. It comes out in our initial interaction with people, right? And just put yourself through that when you walk into a room and somebody looks at you with that facial expression, which is not comforting. Again, not a nice feeling. Now, can I say that having to go through all of these and I'm perfectly okay and I will swim through this and I have great resilience? No, it is, again, I can only imagine, perhaps I've not been in that place, but I can only imagine what that must be for an individual if they have to go through these circumstances. Also, the lot of these unfriendly attitudes that I've been speaking about, almost making people feel inferior and worthless, not a nice feeling again. Now, overall, even if you look at the opportunities given to these individuals with albinism, are somewhere reduced, right from education. So another, the same survey that I was, mentioning before, spoke about, almost 30 to 40% people had difficulty getting admission in schools, and of that, 70% of people didn't get admission because the parents of other peers felt that it's a communicable disease, and they don't want these children in as part of the group. Now, can you imagine somebody being denied as basic right as education? Now, that is one, like, that's the barrier at the beginning where, they're not given education. Then how can you expect them to be okay financially later on in life when they have not been given an opportunity? Also, to establish that cognitively they are sound, there is nothing that stops them from performing to the abilities that are, apart from the barriers that they have physically in terms of vision and other things, but cognitively they're sound. But imagine somebody being denied this opportunity of learning, and then how do you think then they will prosper, right? Now, okay, somebody, again, as I said, maybe not all, I don't want to paint this picture of the world with being all bad, but maybe yes, largely people are experiencing exclusion, but maybe there are some amount of people who are given these opportunities. But maybe the education opportunities are given. Are the same for it comes to work? Are people being able to hire for what jobs they're interested in, or what jobs they aspire to have? Again, answer might not be always favorable in their favor, right? Because again, people with albinism face a lot of restrictions in terms of hiring. Uh, Again, going back to the stigma part of it, the attitudes, the negative attitudes people hold. So these are few factors that I probably brought out, but there are several other factors that sort of have an impact on their psychological well-being. What is crucial again here is for us to be aware of these factors. And in the next slide, where I want to speak about what is that we can do as individuals to help these people with albinism to reduce the psychological impact. Now, in terms of what is it that we can do, right? First and foremost comes the awareness part of it. Now, it is surprising and it is also shocking to know, even at this age and time, uh, the understanding or the knowledge that people hold about albinism is very limited, or not all true, or not all correct. And that perhaps has again an influence on in terms of the attitudes that people hold towards people with albinism. So what becomes very crucial is that in terms of awareness, that it should, the focus should be on awareness, that each and every individual is at least made aware of what the condition is, or what the limitations are, or what sort of problems these people undergo. All of these things need to be made aware of. Now again, coming back to awareness, yes, at a larger level, ideally reaching masses would be great, but why don't we start from ourselves? It could be about me creating awareness within my knowledge of what I'm aware and what is the new developments or what is the current understanding. Also about my immediate family members or people within my immediate reach. How can I communicate that to them? That again becomes crucial. Yes, on a larger level, we want to speak about how do we make everybody aware, and we do these big, large campaigns, but that is at large. But every single individual of us have a significant role to play because we are part of that society. So if I become aware and I make 10 people aware around me, they will have an impact, or they will communicate further. So obviously the awareness starts from us first, and also children, right? Educate your children about these things because they are going to be the future citizens, and how what you feed into them now is going to be the outcome at a later point. Rather than learning them from your attitudes and people around's attitude of how they react to people who are different, teach them what is the right information or right knowledge that they deserve to know, so that at least they're sensitized towards dealing with people with different conditions, or people who are different, and they have a better understanding towards that. So that's one part of it. Next is being inclusive. Now I don't mean inclusive only in terms of school or things, or workplaces. At large, as society also, we should learn to be inclusive. What do I mean by inclusive? Again, I'm not just specifying that it's inclusion should be focused only on albinism. It should be about every single individual who has different needs. That is very crucial. That are we being sensitive to the needs of other person? And if not, then what is that okay? Right now, like for example, in schools, as I spoke earlier, are you able to modify the timetable according to the child's needs? Are you able to provide the resources in terms of teaching aids or teaching material which is more suitable or adaptable for the child with albinism, or basing on their needs, right? Or are you able to connect, or are you able to bring new resources that might help the child given their limitations, or given their needs that they require in terms of learning? If not, then it is not okay for us to say that the child is not performing or the child is not doing good enough, because we are not really creating that environment for them to flourish, right? And I believe that is the environment that we all should thrive, that every individual should be at least given an opportunity where they can perform their best. And some people are lucky, like us, who probably don't need any of those, and we can thrive and perform in any circumstances. We should be at least sensitive towards the needs of certain people who might need things differently. I'm not saying special or important or something. I'm just saying that they might need things differently. It could be the way the benches are arranged, or it could be the way that the size that you print for them, simple things like that, right? So including workplaces, are you able to modify, give them certain things that they require? Are you able to give them some concessions in terms of time? So all of these things are very important. You cannot put everybody in one box and say everybody should be okay, right? Ideally, that's a very capitalistic way of looking at it. But what I'm trying to emphasize, bringing the humanness in us, that we should cater to individual needs, so that at least we're giving them the best time and opportunity for them to become and flourish as better individuals. Common thing that when I speak about inclusion and making arrangements is time and resources. Trust me, where there is a will, there is a way. It's easier said than done, but that is true. What I constantly sort of make people reflect is on, put yourself in a condition or a situation where you need different things and people are not able to provide that. Simple things about signboards in foreign countries, right? If all the for signboards in a country are completely written in local language, you don't understand anything, maps are not working, internet is not there, you are in great need, people don't speak that language, and you're really stuck. How does that feel? Not really nice, is it? So if the government of that country said, I don't have time or resources to, do bilingual boards, is that okay? So again, going back to this point, put yourself in their shoes. Anybody who needs different things, try at least your best in whatever capacity or needs that you can provide it to them. Now, the last point as professionals, that we should be aware of what are these new resources that are available, that might help an individual with different needs, right? In this case, a lot of low vision devices that might help people with albinism in terms of, reading and performing other, visual activities that might aid in their learning processes and education processes as such. Are we aware of such things? Are we able to make referrals to such place? Are these resources readily available? Yes, I'm aware that, these are the things, but are these resources made available in every part of our country? Perhaps not, right? So somewhere, um, not just awareness of about this, available resources, but also what is it that I as a professional can take forward to make this be at reach to all other people who require these resources. That's also very crucial, right? We can't just say that, oh, this is what I know and this is what is going to go on. No, that attitude towards anything will not work. It's always about keeping ourselves updated about what is out there and what is working and what is not working for people, and where are these available resources, where can I find this, and why not, because it's going to help that individual, right? So again, having that positive attitude towards helping an individual and getting them the best resources that we can should be the cause. And obviously, when you do that for them, you are definitely ruling out all the factors that I was speaking earlier, somewhat or the other, or reducing the impact of those factors, and in turn, reducing the psychological impact in them. So overall, what again I want to emphasize is that you know, it is not easy to live a life when things are different for you, where you are a minority and majority of them are so-called normal. And it is each and everyone's responsibility to sort of create this better world for everybody, and make everybody feel inclusive. And that effort is, should come from every individual. It's not a responsibility of an organization or an NGO or anything, but it comes from within you, because you comprise of society, and society is made up of us as individual components. So if we can bring about change within ourselves, I'm very sure we can make this world a better place for everyone. Right? With that, I would like to end. Thank you very much. All the best.